Uh, Deb, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll now provide an opportunity for oral communication from the public for any matter that is not on the agenda. And Deb can read the instructions for those who would like to make such a comment and how they can do so on Zoom.
For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an item on the agenda that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking.
Thank you, Deb. So anyone from the public who wishes to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda, please raise your hand now.
No call. Yeah, no hands are raised for this item.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to our regular agenda. We don't have a consent agenda this morning. So we're the first item on our agenda is item number 1. It's planning case PLN 2021-00375. The owner applicant is Ping Guo, and it's located at 2036 Kings Lane in the San Mateo Highlands unincorporated area. And it's a consideration of a minor subdivision permit application pursuant to the county subdivision regs to subdivide a 17,855 square foot parcel into one 9,775 square foot parcel and one 8,081 square foot lot. So Mr. Jha, can you please present this project?
Yes, sure. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a moment, please. Okay, and hope you can see my screen now. So I'll begin presenting. So good morning, Zoning Hearing Officer Leclerc and the members of the public. My name is Glenn Jha, Planner 3 with the Department of Planning and Building. The item before you is item 1, which is a minor subdivision application proposed by Ms. Ping Guo. This minor subdivision application proposes to subdivide a 17,855 square feet parcel into one 9,775 square feet parcel and one 8,081 square feet parcel. The subject property is located at 2036 Kings Lane in the unincorporated San Mateo Highlands area of San Mateo County. The subject parcel is located in an urbanized single-family residential neighborhood. The existing parcel is zoned for one family residential. Water will be supplied by the California Water Services Company via an existing water line serving the project site. The Crystal Springs County Sanitation District will provide sewer service to the property. As you can see on the aerial map, the project site is developed with a single family residence, which is proposed to be demolished under a separate demolition permit. Please note that the structure to be demolished has no historic significance, according to a historic report submitted by the applicant. As discussed earlier in the presentation, this minor subdivision application is to subdivide the legal parcel into 2 smaller lots. Although tree removal is mentioned in the staff report, the applicant has agreed that the tree removal request be excluded from the consideration. Any removal of significant or heritage trees will be reviewed with a separate tree removal permit at the building stage. For anyone who's concerned with tree removal, please note that tree removal decisions are appealable to the planning commission at the time a tree removal permit is granted by the county. As discussed in the staff report, planning staff has reviewed the application and concluded that this minor subdivision proposal is in compliance with the general plan, zoning regulations, and subdivision regulations. Section 7005 of the subdivision regulations is not discussed in the staff report and will be discussed in this presentation. Pursuant to the section 7005 of the subdivision regulations, the county shall consider the effect of actions taken pursuant to this regulations on housing needs of the region and the housing needs in the county. Staff concludes that this proposed 2-lot minor subdivision will contribute to the housing supply of the region. As to environmental review, staff concludes that this application is categorically exempt under section 15315 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. Class 15 consists of the division of property in urbanized areas zoned for residential use into 4 or fewer parcels. This project does not involve a variance or exception, and all services and access in compliance with the county standards are available. Staff recommends that the zoning hearing officer approve the minor subdivision application county file number PLN 2021-00375 by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval listed in attachment A of the staff report. Additionally, staff recommends that the zoning hearing officer consider accepting the following suggestions. First, changing the term from tentative parcel map to change the term from tentative map to tentative parcel map in finding number A in attachment A. Second, consider adding condition number 34. Prior to the issuance of building permit, the applicant shall provide a tree protection plan pursuant to section 11055 of the regulation of removal and trimming of heritage trees and section 12020.5 of the significant tree ordinance to attachment A. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Glenn. I had one question, and that has to do with a finding pursuant to state law that is required in the subdivision regulations having to do with the county having considered the housing needs in the county and in the entire Bay Area in the course of making its decision on this application. It's some pro forma language that's in the regulations. So I just wondered if that was also part of your recommendation.
Yeah, that's part of the recommendation, and that was mentioned in the earlier presentation.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Well, those are all of my questions. I want to mention that we did receive one letter prior to the hearing, and the author raised some concerns about increased density and tree removal. It sounds like the tree removal is no longer part of this application at this time, but perhaps would be in the future. So did we receive any other correspondence regarding this application?
Yeah, did you have a question? Did you receive any questions from the public?
We have one person that would like to talk.
Great.
When it's time.
Yeah, no, I know. I will open the, I just wanted to know whether or not we had received any other correspondence. And hearing none, I'll now open the public hearing and have Deb call on those who raise their hands in the order that they raised them.
Jim?
Yeah, hello. Thank you. My name is Jim Bobowski. I'm the resident of 2042 Kings Lane. That is the immediate property next to the property in question. I'm going to just go through a prepared statement here, and I would appreciate just a couple minutes of time. As fact setting, this variance has caught the whole neighborhood off guard. Neither me nor any of my neighbors know or have heard of the buyer. To our knowledge, the buyer has no intention of living on this property at any time in the future. They have not shared any details of their future plans with neighbors. It is not clear the buyer for whom this exception is being made is even a resident of California or the United States. In addition to the buyer, there are 4 other bids on the property. My fellow neighbors and representatives of the Housing and Zoning Department, thank you for allowing me this time to express my view on the proposal. I imagine the Housing and Zoning Department wrestles with 2 difficult issues. First, the desire to create more housing for new Bay Area families. Second, the need to protect the neighborhoods and property values of existing Bay Area homeowners. The proposed project hardly affects the former, while failing at the latter. Due to this, I am against the proposal, a view I share, I believe, universally with my neighbors. There are numerous ways this project hurts current residents and their property values. Most notably, if allowed to go through, you are creating the 2 smallest properties on Kings Lane, one lot that is 20% smaller than the smallest current lot and 34% smaller than the average lot size on our street. Since, as they say, the land is what you pay for, establishing the 2 smallest properties will reduce average property sizes and will reduce average values in our neighborhood. This is not the only value harming infringement. Changing home layouts so they maximize the building to property ratio may be legal, but will not maintain home values. Adding visual and noise pollution for 3 to 4 years while construction takes place will not maintain home values. Nor does having scores of strangers working on the site, countless more trucks driving through our kid-heavy neighborhood, home aesthetics that will fall outside the pervasive mid-century ranch dominant style, the removal of multiple heritage trees, one that is truly remarkable with over a century of growth. And I know that there was a removal of that in this proposal, which I don't believe, and I believe we will see that reapplied later. So this is going to be a removal of a heritage tree. All of these factors weigh down property values. Now, certainly, given the long list of harms, there must be a longer list of benefits that justify the project. But simply put, there isn't. Does this project make a difference to the housing shortage? Technically, yes. It increases the number of Bay Area housing units by 1, literally the minimum amount possible. This is hardly the reason to harm dozens of other homeowners. Second, was accepting this deal necessary to sell the property? No. The property had 5 bids, and it is unclear if the bid taken was even the highest one made. In a neighborhood where homes remain on the market for hours, not weeks, and where the buying price exceed asking prices by hundreds of dollars, there was no need to accept this bid. In fact, had one of the 4 other neighbors been accepted, we'd likely already have a new neighbor, adding to our neighborhood vibe and supporting the local tax system. But instead, we'll have years of construction. In addition to the lack of worthwhile reasons, I also question how this deal occurred and why an exception is being made for this person. As far as I know, they are not a resident of the neighborhood, nor the city of San Mateo. It's not even clear they're a resident of California or America. I understand that variances will occasionally be made, but why not make them when local residents and investors stand to benefit, not outside money? Furthermore, we do not believe the buyer has any intention of living on the property. Instead, it appears that their only motivation is to make as much profit for themselves as possible. Their current actions already make this clear, but where does it stop? Why should we believe this buyer has any intention of building a beautiful home with quality materials when it will be faster, simpler, and more profitable to cut corners? A neighbor doesn't take this action because they know they and their friends bear the consequence. But to someone living far away, we are just a cold investment. Past actions are the best predictors of future decisions. And given the actions taken to date, it can only believe that this is a property investor that will do what's best only for them regardless of its harm or cost to the neighborhood. There are so many reasons not to do this project. I feel compelled to ask this body why it is being considered at all and why it was accepted at all. How many variances are sought each year through your department, and how few are accepted? And why this one? What kind of edge must a home buyer have to not only feel confident they will win a competitive bid in today's market, but that they will be able to get a variance approved in months? Having been through the remodel process very recently, I know how long permitting takes, and it is far longer than the few days homes in my neighborhood stay on market. It seems this variance was contemplated and approved in advance, and that the buyer knew it, which seems deeply improper. Lastly, on a personal level, my family and I have the most to lose. The property we are discussing is my immediate neighboring property. My wife and I purchased this home due to its peacefulness. We love our home and backyard. It is our sanctuary. Unfortunately, instead of chirping birds, I will look forward to the sound of hammers and trucks for the next 3 years. Rather than privacy, hundreds of strangers will be looking directly into my backyard. Rather than preserving my remarkable view, you're literally ripping down a centuries-old tree and replacing my northern horizon with a wall. That is, after I get to stare at a work site for 3 to 4 years. A view, by the way, had I been on video, you would be staring at, because according to the plans, what's behind me is turning into a wall. Simply put, this variance will set a bad precedent for the wrong reasons and threatens countless more homeowners than just the ones you see today in my neighborhood. I, along with the other tax-paying and voting residents of the neighborhood, a group with over 250 years of tenure living in this neighborhood, firmly reject this proposal. Keep this property a single unit and let a family who values our neighborhood become part of it in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobowski. Deb, do we have other hands
Yes.
raised? People who
Roy?
want to speak? And I just want to note, thank you for that personal comment, Mr. Bobowski, but I would prefer folks to limit their comments to 3 minutes if they could, and try not to repeat too much the prior speakers. Thank you.
Roy, go ahead.
Hello, this is Roy Takai. I live at 2029 Kings Lane. 2036 is directly across the street from my property. Since the pandemic, I've been spending a lot of time waking up early, looking across at the beautiful trees. At sunrise, there's a proliferation of birds perched at the top of the 2 heritage trees that I'm sorry, I don't know if they're heritage trees, but the 2 huge trees, like 80 to 100 foot tall trees, teeming with wildlife. So I object to the statement on page 5, item 5, which says there's no effect on wildlife. Taking down those 2 magnificent trees is like taking out Nordstrom's and Macy's from Hillsdale Mall. It's like a focal point for wildlife because it gives a great perch for the birds. The plans on, let's see, the plans attachment E shows lot 1, which I'm most concerned about, which contains the 2 trees that I'm talking about. One which is being approved for removal if this application is approved. So that map showing lot 1 shows at least 6 trees, including the redwood, the sequoia, being removed, if I'm reading the map correctly. And I'd like to know the sequencing of the approvals for the tree plan. If this first step of zoning is approved, when is the first tree going to be demoed? Does that mean it's approved and then subsequently another tree plan is coming up that will say that the other 6 significant trees are coming down, including the redwood? So I think in reading the application and the tree inventory, the arborist said he did not see any construction plans. He was just inventorying the trees. If he had seen the construction plans, he might have objected in his report on the removal of the sequoia. Anyway, I think the report is incomplete. I think your sequencing is all messed up. I mean, once that first tree is gone, you've already made a big impact. So that concludes my concerns.
Thank you very much, Mr. Takai. Do we have other hands raised? Deb?
Jim has his hand raised still.
Oh, well,
but
yeah.
I don't know if that's from
he's
before.
already spoken.
Yeah,
I'm speaking to raise a point of order. With all due respect, the literature you sent allowed people 5 minutes of time. This is an important project for our neighborhood. I would appreciate if we kept to the thing that was communicated to the residents of this neighborhood that are being affected by this terrible decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb, do we have other hands raised?
no, it was just Roy and Jim that had their hands raised.
Great, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing and provide some responses to some of the comments that we heard. So Glenn, I want you to confirm this for me, but my understanding is that there are no exceptions or variances requested as part of this application. In other words, the lot size, lot depth, lot width that are proposed in the application conform to the subdivision regulations and the zoning regulations. Is that correct?
Yes, I can confirm that, and no exception is requested. No exception is requested. And lot size meet the minimum requirement of 7,500 square feet. So the proposed lots will meet the minimum lot size.
Great, thank you. And I remember too, I believe from your staff report, that although there aren't any lots this size, the sizes proposed immediately adjacent, there are lots of this size in the subdivision, the overall subdivision that this parent parcel is located in. Is that correct?
So if I understand you correctly, you're talking about like the lot size in the neighborhood, like the average lot size in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So I did some observation using the GIS system. And now on Kings Lake, most of the lots are around 9,000 square feet. But in the neighborhood, like 1 or 2 blocks away, you can find smaller parcels. They're like around 7,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to respond to Mr. Bobowski's point that that there were variances or exceptions sought. And then with regard to the property transactions and who can buy them, the county has no policies and has no legal possibility for limiting who buys what properties. That's a transaction that's regulated in other arenas and in the marketplace, and the county has no say over who buys property. A number of points were raised about tree removal, and the applicant has removed the tree removal request from its application. And so the tree removal will application, decision, and then ultimate removal, if any, is authorized, will occur at the building permit stage. So if this application for a subdivision is approved, then there are a number of conditions that the applicant must conform with or must comply with prior to being able to even apply for building permits. And at that time, they would apply for any tree removal that is necessary to construct the residences that are ultimately proposed. One of the things that the county established a few years ago when they updated the subdivision regulations was a pre-application process called the development footprint analysis, so that neighbors would have an opportunity to know whether resources on the site would be impacted by subsequent construction. Technically speaking, the county's not required to assess what the potential tree removal. Of course, if there are protected species or those kinds of things on protected resources, cultural resources on the site that might be impacted by construction, then those are discussed in an environmental document. But since none of the trees on the site are protected by state or federal law, they're protected by the county's tree ordinance. And none of the species that live in those trees are protected by state or federal law or by county ordinance. The primary issue is tree removal on this site from a standpoint of natural resources. And the tree removal process, as I said, would occur at the building permit stage. At that time, when the applicant has actually designed buildings for part of the development footprint analysis, they provided us with some conceptual home footprints to show where trees might be removed. And we wanted to, this process was created so that neighbors like yourselves would know what the likely outcome of development on the site would be. And it's not pre-deciding, you know, what that is, but it is providing that information so that everybody goes into these kinds of decisions eyes wide open. And so when they apply for building permits, then they will also apply for any tree removals, and neighbors will be noticed. That is a discretionary action by the county to grant the tree removals. The building permits are not. Those are ministerial decisions. Once lots are created and a parcel map is recorded, the applicant is able to apply for building permits that for structures that comply with the zoning and the building code. And with regard to lot size and density, it's important to note that, as Mr. Bobowski did, that we are in a housing crisis, and that not only are there county regulations that apply to this site, but there's state law that applies to this site. And if someone applies for a subdivision such as this one, and subsequent, building permits, under state law, the county is required to ensure that the development of the site actually meets the density of the general plan and zoning applicable on the site. And so In other words, if the county were to reduce the density on the site, they're required to make it up on another site somewhere else in the county. And as Mr. Jha pointed out, there are other lots in the neighborhood that are similarly sized to the ones that are proposed. And based on the housing need in the county and the region, and the proposal being in conformance with the zoning and general plan designations of the site, we'll plan on approving this project today. And so I've closed the public hearing and responded to comments. So I want to ask the applicant if they have read and understand the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report. And do they agree with them? And you're on mute, Ms. Gao.
Thing you need to unmute.
Can she do it herself, or does
Let
someone
me
need to
see
do
what's
it
going
for
on.
her?
Let me see. There we
Hi,
go.
everyone. This is Ping. I'm the applicant. I appreciate this meeting. Yes, I saw all the correspondence from the planning department of the county, and I agree with everything. There's one point I want to raise is I appreciate two neighbors raise their concerns. But regarding Mr. I forgot his last name.
Lebowski.
Yeah, I don't think it was nice to make quite a racist comments regarding, like, he even thinks I'm not a US citizen. Is it just because I'm Chinese? My name is fully Chinese. I've been living in this country for more than 25 years. This is actually the first time I encountered this kind of racial comments. And also his comments is based on pure speculation, saying there's other bidders in the transaction. I actually am not even aware of anything. Obviously, I don't know anything about the transaction. I only know my offer was accepted. So I know this has nothing to do with the whole planning discussion, but I'm just saying I was personally quite hurt when I heard those things. And I appreciate the other neighbor, Mr. Takai's comments regarding the trees. I wanna make sure he is assured that those redwood trees will for sure stay there. Well, I'm doing, increase the housing in the neighborhood for sure, at the same time with a very clear mind of preserving as many trees as possible. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gao. I will, and with that, I'm going to approve this application as proposed, subject to the pursuant to the findings and subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. I want to note that this application, this approval can be appealed to the Planning Commission within, it must be, the appeal application must be submitted within 10 working days. And the last date, I believe, for that is April 21st. Is that correct, Deb?
Yes.
Thank you. And the application for appeal must include a $616.35 appeal fee. Thank you all. Thank you, Glenn, for that presentation. And we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda. So this application is a proposal by the Joint Pole Authority, represented by Catherine Leal of Epic Wireless. Planning case number 2004 00110. It's located in the Alpine Road, public right-of-way adjacent to 3130 Alpine Road, which is the Ladera shopping center. And it's a proposed use permit renewal, and to allow the continued operation of an existing wireless telecommunication facility operated by AT&T Mobile. With that, I would like to turn it over to staff for a presentation.
Yeah, so so item 2 is also mine. I'm going to share my screen. Please give me a second. Okay, good morning, Zoning Hearing Officer Leclerc. My name is Glenn Jia, Planner 3 with the Department of Planning and Building. The item before you is item 2, which is for the consideration of a use permit renewal application for the continued operation of an AT&T telecommunication facility. As shown on the aerial map, the subject site is located within the public right-of-way of Alpine Road and adjacent to the Ladera Shopping Center in the unincorporated Ladera area of San Mateo County. Surrounding area consists of commercial and residential developments. This use permit renewal application involves no physical modifications or changes to existing telecommunication facility. And as you can see on the right side of the screen, this is the existing south side, and that's for illustration purpose only. Staff has reviewed the application and concluded that the proposal is in compliance with the general plan, zoning regulations, wireless telecommunications facilities ordinance, use permit findings, and conditions of previous land use approvals. As to environmental review, staff concludes that this application is categorically exempt pursuant to section 15301, class 1 of the California Environmental Quality Act. Guidelines, as no physical changes or expansion of use are proposed. Staff recommends that the zoning hearing officer approve this use permit renewal request county file number PLN 2004-00110 by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval listed in attachment A of this staff report. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. I don't have any questions of this proposal. I think it's pretty straightforward. I also did not, prior to the meeting, receive any correspondence regarding this item. Has Deb, have we received any correspondence commenting on this proposal?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'd like to open the public hearing and have Deb call on those who raise their hands. I hope you know how to do that.
There are no raised hands as the attendees. And let me go ahead and make sure that Catherine is unmuted.
Yeah.
So that she can speak.
So if anyone wishes to speak on this item, please raise your hand now. If I don't see any raised hands, then I will close the public hearing.
I don't see any raised hands, Joe.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. And I would like to, I'm poised to approve this application. So I'd like to ask Catherine Leal if she has read and understand the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report and agrees with them.
Yes, we have read them. We approve of them on behalf of AT&T.
Great. Thank you very much. So I approve this project as proposed pursuant to the findings and subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. If anyone wishes to appeal this approval, it can be appealed to the Planning Commission in writing within 10 working days, which in this case is April the 21st. And the application must include a $616.35 application fee. Thank you very much. And thank you, staff. And we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda. And item 3 is a proposal by Alex and Maria Flokus. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. It's planning file number PLN 2018-00098, located at 35 Loma Vista Lane in the Burlingame Hills unincorporated area. And I'm going to ask Mr. Kelly to present this project on behalf of the county.
Yeah, Kanoa is not here yet. I just sent him a message.
Oh,
I don't see him here.
okay. Well, let's take a 5-minute break and see if we can't track Mr. Kelly down, and then we'll reconvene at 10:45.
You done?
One more item. is here.
Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. We've been able to locate Mr. Kelly, so I think we're poised now for staff's presentation of the of item number 3 on the agenda. Mr.
All right.
Kelly?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Good.
you.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so the item before you is the subdivision of the property located at 35 Loma Vista Lane, and this is adjacent to the city of Burlingame, as you can see here. Here is an aerial overview of the property. And it's also here along Skyline Boulevard is where the subdivision will take place. The parcel, this is the entire parcel. Only a portion of the parcel will be subdivided by the applicant. So I'll bring up the plans here to show you. So here's Loma Vista Lane and the remainder parcel here to the west. And then this section of the parcel adjacent to Skyline Boulevard will be subdivided. So there's no proposed development at this time, but the applicant is subdividing to sell off to a developer or someone to come in and develop these 3 parcels with homes, the single family homes. Here are the 3 parcels here, and they each share shared access off of Skyline, as we said. So the subdivision complies with all of the kind of subdivision standards for a minor subdivision. The only reason that we are here, the ZHO, is that the applicant is requesting a exception to the requirement that the lot width requirement that they be 100 feet. So each of them, you can see kind of odd shape of the parcel down there. Because of this, the applicant, it's kind of between Loma Vista Drive, Skyline Boulevard. There's no place to go. You're kind of sandwiched in between these 2 streets. The applicant's requesting that there be an exception to the 100-foot lot length requirement. So they're asking for that at this time. Second, let me just pull up my staff report. Oh, sorry, my computer's freezing here. So the applicant is also requesting the removal of specific trees. Let me pull this up here. So there are 6 significant trees that are proposed for removal. And here you can see we have a table in the staff report. There are, the only reason why they're removing them is for the installation of shared infrastructure. Like we said, there's no development proposed at this time, but when the infrastructure goes in, these will most likely be required to be removed because they won't, the trees will be damaged by the infrastructure, the driveways, the kind of building pads and other things, and grading. They're also asking for a grading permit. as the project will, all the shared infrastructure will be required to move 1,525 cubic yards of earth. And I just wanted to go to this chart just to show you that the different, the square footage of each parcel will be approximately 10,000 square feet, with the remainder parcels 44,000 square feet that would be developed at a future date. And then the proposed grading quantities for each of the parcels. And so that concludes my presentation of the kind of overall project, and I can open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. So I did not receive any correspondence prior to the meeting on this item. Deb, did we receive any correspondence in the last couple days?
I haven't received anything.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to open the public hearing and have Deb call on those who raise their hands in the order that they raised them. And please, those members of the public who wish to provide some comment, please raise your hands and
Mark?
Hi, good morning all. Mark Hudiak. I'm a local attorney and I represent the applicant. I'm afraid I wasn't able to attend the hearing that was held a couple of weeks ago, but wanted to offer a couple of thoughts at this point. First, to thank the staff for its thorough review and detailed staff report. I think all of the issues were covered adequately. Second, with respect to the exception that's being requested from the 100-foot frontage, in my experience, the primary purpose of frontage requirements is to prevent the creation of flag lots or other oddly configured lots that don't really fit with the neighborhood custom and practice. And here, even though the lots don't meet the 100-foot frontage requirements, they still have substantial frontage and can be developed in a way that will make a fine presentation to the street and to the neighborhood. So from that standpoint, there's merit to this exception and really no downside to it. At the last hearing, there were two issues that were raised and left open for resolution. The project engineer, Mr. Bechtel, has had extensive communication with staff regarding them. One had to do with a prior filing by an original owner that appeared to relinquish the right for this property to use access to Loma Vista Drive, which is in Burlingame. And as Cliff did his research, nobody at Burlingame could really figure out why that requirement had been instituted. It might not be legal to say to a property owner, you can't access a public road. But regardless, Burlingame couldn't find any evidence of formal action taken by the city council or the planning commission that would have required the relinquishing of this right of access. And based on what we've been told by staff, city has no interest in preventing that access at this point and is willing to go through whatever process is necessary to get that prior relinquishment off of the title. So staff has appropriately included a new condition of approval that would require us to complete that process before the final map is recorded. And that's acceptable to us. And then the other issue that came up had to do with a restrictive covenant that contemplated a minimum of 25,000 square foot in lot size. That's a private property rights requirement, maybe not entirely appropriate for a public agency to enforce, but regardless, our neighbors or potential neighbors have agreed that they don't have objection to these 10,000 square foot lots. And the requirement that was, or the covenant that was recorded, may now be inconsistent with state law, including SB 9 and SB 10, and certainly is inconsistent with the county's well-founded policy to develop as much housing as can reasonably be developed. So requiring a 25,000 square foot minimum lot size would be inconsistent with county policy and maybe with state law. Again, staff has created an appropriate new condition requiring that we get sign off and remove that deed restriction before the recordation of the final map. And we're working with the title company to arrange the appropriate documentation that could be executed to accomplish that. And of course, we'll make sure that staff's satisfied with the form of that document before it's executed and recorded. So I think we've covered all of the bases here. Once again, we appreciate staff's time and dedication to detail in helping us to formulate an appropriate application here. We look forward to approval. And as far as we know, there's no opposition to this application. So we're available to answer any questions that there might be. Thanks for everyone's time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hudiak. Is there other?
Yes, we have one more.
Thank you, Deb.
Cliff? Yeah, there we go. Hi, Cliff.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, it's not set up the way I usually see a Zoom meeting, but I just wanted to clarify some of the staff report statements and just kind of reiterate what Mark has said. I'm the engineer that prepared these plans before you. These plans have been basically developed over 5 years to get through this process. And as far as the tree removals, during the process, the staff did require us to apply for a grading permit, which you have before you, which had to include building development footprints. Unlike that first item on your agenda today, we did detailed engineering and hydraulic analysis of the properties to make sure it's in conformance with county standards. The building footprints are shown on the plan. That's what has resulted in most of the tree removals that is proposed before you today. They wanted to know what the environmental impacts for the negative deck to be prepared, which was prepared for the project. And those tree removals are in the building pads that actually are conceptual thoughts of how a building would be laid out. So again, it's been a long, thorough review of this project, and we have gone to extensive lengths to answer all and any comments and questions by the county. And we appreciate your time and approval of this project today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. And your last name is?
Bechtel.
Bechtel, thank you. So I had one question, well, two questions for you. Well, hold on, before I get to that. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak on this application? Please raise your hands.
Nobody. There's nobody.
Okay. Thank you, Deb. With that, I will close the public hearing. And I want to, Cliff, if you're still available, I wanted to ask one, I took a close look at the grading plan, and I understand the filling and constructing of the retaining walls and so on to create level access for the lots and the aprons. What I had difficulty understanding was the cuts and fills for the housing. And I understand these are, conceptual footprints, they're not architecture. And so I assume these are estimates of the amount of cut fill for building pads. Is that correct? Is Cliff muted?
No,
Yeah.
wait, oh, sorry, Cliff. I didn't realize you got muted again.
Oh.
There we go.
Cliff?
Cliff, are
Looks
you
like
unmuted? I'm
Still
trying to-
muted. There it
Okay,
goes.
now I'm
Okay.
unmuted. Okay. Yeah, the county asked us to prepare stepped, well, in this case, because of the hillside lot, stepped pad grade elevations conceptually to determine potential environmental impacts for the grading, like tree removals and things. So yes, those are our estimates based on pad grades and grading of future homes. Yes.
Thank you. So yeah, the subsequent detailed grading plans will be prepared based on the actual home designs once those are completed.
That is correct. There will be a quote building permit process which has detailed grading.
Great, thank you. And I had a question for Mr. Kelly. What if the rare plants that are listed in the negative declaration are encountered? What impact would that have on this approval and design?
So if the project differs from what is approved here substantially, they will have to amend their the grading permit to include additional grading or other impacts. So that would be required if the project differs substantially from what we're approving here.
Yeah, no, I wasn't so much referring to the grading as I was to the, there's two, I think it's serpentine bunch grass and another rare Bay Area plant that are listed in the negative declaration as potentially occurring on the site. There hasn't been a survey yet, and there will be one that's required in the conditions of approval. And I just had a question as to are you saying that if those plants are encountered and they are protected they're protected by state law. If they're protected by state law, then that could alter the design of the project, and they would bring the altered project back for review and approval.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So, and similarly, I understand from the conditions of approval that the tree removals will be linked to building permits for either subdivision improvements or subsequent home construction.
That's correct. They're not removing them now. They're not allowed to remove them, right away. It's just going to be tied with building permits once we get them for development.
Great. And I think the approach of working with City of Burlingame and the neighbors on these historic limitations on lot size and access is the appropriate approach with regard to those two issues. So I would like to ask the applicant if I heard the statements earlier, but I want to just reiterate, ask the applicant if they have read and understand the findings and conditions of approval in the staff report.
Yes, we went through it and we agree with everything on the staff report.
Great, thank you. So I'm approving this project as proposed, subject or pursuant to the findings and subject to the conditions in the staff report. And if anyone wishes to appeal this approval, it can be appealed to the Planning Commission within 10 working days, in this case by April 21st. And any application for appeal must include a $616.35 appeal fee. And if there are no other matters, we're poised to adjourn this meeting. I adjourn the meeting. Thank you all, and thanks to staff.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
You have a good one.
Yeah, take good care.